What is going on, guys? It's your boy Veganasso, and welcome back to another video. I would like to return every now and then to make a storytime video, because that's essentially all I really have the time for nowadays. With a girlfriend and a job, my time is very taken up. But with another note, I would like to say all of the gameplay used in these clips is my gameplay. Like, I have gone through and I have recorded this while just free playing, just to have stock content. But on that note, I would like to share a story with you guys that I haven't written down because I just wanted to get, like, my thoughts and stuff together. Alright, so for some context, if you know me in person, I'm 18 and I live in North Idaho. And the thing is about the woods in the Pacific Northwest is that there's definitely something in those woods, and for this exact reason is why I do not fuck around with the woods up here. Like, I do and I don't. Like, I'll go into the woods, but I will not go without any form of protection or alone. And so, on that note, I would like to tell you guys about a story with what I believe this. You can call me crazy. What I believe to be a skinwalker. I've always heard stories about them, like growing up and spending time on the internet. I've always heard stories about the term skinwalker or wendigo or cryptid or mothman. I've heard so many different stories, and I questioned it up until this happened. So, in October of 2025, it was late October, and it was still pretty warm outside, as the last few Octobers have been for us up here. Me and some buddies decided to go out to Hayden Creek, and I guess, like, we were gonna mud, and we were gonna, like, my buddy brought out his 22, and we were gonna shoot, and it was a really nice gun. It was a semi-auto, and it was really nice. But we ended up going probably about 5 or 6 miles into the woods, and we turned off on a road, and we went there and we pulled off, and I stayed at my truck because I was just fiddling around with some wood and stuff and whittling, and they all piled into one of my other buddies' trucks to go further up the mountain and kind of go through, like, some mud bogs and deep spots that my tiny little stock F-150 could not make it through. And so it was me in my truck, our buddy Cuddy in his truck, and then Jared and a couple other buddies were in Jared's truck. And so I'm sitting there, and we're like, they go up and they just go out in Cuddy's truck and they sit in the back and they go through some mud. And about 10-15 minutes later go by and they come back, and we're like, Cuddy's telling us about, like, there's a spot up in, like, the Hayden Creek burn area where there's a fire pit, and there's been some rounds that are, like, positioned around it to act as, like, seats and stuff. And, like, I had some hot dogs and we had some food, and I was like, well, you know, it would be fun if we went up there. And so we all discussed it and we all agreed, like, yeah, we're gonna go. We have enough gas. We're gonna go up the mountains to this spot and we're gonna hang out there. And so they're already facing down the road, so they get into their trucks and they get their shit sorted out and they go down the road, and I have to turn around because I'm facing up the mountain. And in between the time that they had already taken off and the time it took me to turn around, there was a group of side-by-sides and four-wheelers and dirt bikes that had already come and gotten in between us. And I guess at some point they had stopped and communicated that they were going to go back to the main shooting pit just to kind of, like, rendezvous and talk things out a little bit better, and I didn't know about this. So I drove back down the road that we came, and as far as I know at this point we were still going, so I took a right and I went further up into the mountains. I wandered for about 3 or 4 hours, and it was pretty late in the afternoon. It was probably about 3 or 4 o'clock, and it was starting to get dark, and I didn't know where I was. And with my F-150, the thing about it is, it was my grandpa's truck before me, and the tire pressure sensor he took the fuse out for it because the fuse that was in it would trigger the dome lights to, like, stay on all night. So he took it out, and so it's always dinging at me, tire pressure sensor fault. And so I take it and I change it to the however many miles to E. And on my way up the mountain, like, it's not changing. I'm like, okay, well, something's not right here. My gas gauge is acting up. It's not moving. And so I go down a couple of roads and take some turns. And I eventually end up on, I zoomed out later on the map. And it was like the northwestern corner of this burn area, the northeastern corner. And so I'm like maybe 10-15 minutes away from Horsehaven Airfield, which is a spot me and some friends have been wanting to go to for a very long time. So we might go back up there and revisit it, all of us, sooner or later. But I'm sitting on a ridge that's kind of like on a tree line where the fire finally like stopped when it went out. And I'm like, I have no fucking clue where I'm at. My friends have most definitely realized I'm gone by now. What if they've called for help and, they can't, like, they're wandering around and they can't find me? What if they send out a helicopter? And that's, like, worst case scenario. And it's already been, like, 3 or 4 hours since I got separated from them. And so I think to myself, if they do send out a helicopter, I need something to give it away besides a white truck. Because obviously there are plenty of people who just drive up there sometimes and just go a ways. I was a ways up there. But I still made the decision to make a fire, to make a smoke signal. And so I'm getting this fire going, and like I grab my knife and stuff, and I keep it on my belt, and I grab my torch out of the back of my truck, and I sit there, and I'm trying to like clear this area out, and I hear a snap in the tree line behind me, and there's like a bunch of shrubs and what are they called? Saplings? Yes, saplings and shit on the tree line. And I look back, and there's nothing there. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just like trying to get this fire going, and I get it going, and a huge like gust of wind just like comes and blows it out. And so I try to get this fire going again, and I hear another crack behind me, and I turn around, and I see on the tree line there is this mountain lion that is sitting there, just kind of like lowered on its fours, like cats, like on its belly, like cats do when they just kind of like sit there in the corner. And so I keep eye contact with it. So I'm like, you don't want to turn your back on mountain lion. You don't, because that gives off the image that you are prey. So I keep eye contact with the thing, and I like put a hand up against my tailgate, and I just to like kind of balance myself, and I reach over with my leg, and I use my boots to like kick out whatever is going in the fire, all the embers and charred pieces of kindling and paper. I kick all that out, and as I'm holding eye contact with this mountain lion, I stand up. I'm sorry, I have a very froggy throat today. I stand up and I close my tailgate and I just like slowly walk backwards and I get into my truck and I lock the doors and I turn that bitch on and I whip it around and I'm like, I need to get out of here. My gas gauge is still acting up when I turn on the truck and I'm like, okay, I don't care if I run out of gas. Worst comes to worst, I just cruise downhill in neutral. And if I get stranded in my truck, I have door locks and a battery that works. So I'm just prepared for like the worst case scenario. And so I just drive. And as I'm driving down the road that took me up onto the ridge, I see the mountain lion walking into the road. And I realize this thing is not a mountain lion. For reference, my truck seats sit about waist height with me. I'm about 6 foot or 6'1", one of the two. I'm probably 6 foot, honestly, because my dad's 6'4", and he's only a couple inches taller than me. So but I'm standing there and I'm driving and I see this thing walking down the road and it is not a mountain lion. This thing is way too tall. This thing is taller than its belly hangs about at the top of my seats. Like the part that I actually sit on, not like the backrest, nothing. This thing is like fucking tall. And its skin just like, it was like loose and baggy and it seemed like it didn't fit on its bones. And it didn't have like paws either. They looked like four-fingered hands. Except there just like wasn't much for the finger. I couldn't like see much. They didn't look like paws. And its face, I will never forget looking at its face. It was like the size of a mountain lion's head, but it had the shape of a human mixed with a greyhound. It had like a long snout, long skinny pointy snout. And I will never forget like that thing staring into my rearview mirror as I drive away. Like I will always be haunted by that. Like I'm getting the chills just telling you about it right now. but I will never forget that day, and I figured I would come on here and share it. But anyways, that's all the time I have for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, turn on notifications. My name is Veganasa, and I will catch you later. Goodbye.